Great. Welcome to the third session of day one of Brand Fest. I'm very delighted to see Aalap and Ritam and everyone being here. And this was one of the most awaited session which we are going to have. Right, Ritam? Good afternoon. Welcome back to Brand Fest and Brand Club. And
Thank
Aalap,
you so much, sir.
yeah. And so I'll quickly take you through a small introduction with them. However, I don't need his introduction, but I need to tell it for the audience sake. So at the age of 21, inspiration for many, Ritam founded IFP. I think Ritam, we have been knowing since that day on when you were 21 and you just started,
Probably even before that, yes.
India Film Project. From his hostel room, what started as a 50-hour filmmaking challenge with 600 creators in 2011 has now become Asia's largest gathering of creative minds with 85,000 plus creators in 2022. Today, IFP is a community of 8.5 lakh creators from diverse backgrounds. IFP has the credit of creating multiple successful IPs, which includes 4 award-winning IPs created in just 2 years. IFP annually collaborates with 40 plus prestigious brands such as PepsiCo, Vivo, Apple, OnePlus, Nestle, Unilever, Diageo, Bumble, Intel, Amazon, Myntra, Coca-Cola, and many more. Featured by Forbes, Rhythm is a 3-time TEDx speaker as a guest speaker at various forums on content, events, startup, IP, marketing, and entrepreneurship. He runs his own sales bootcamp and mentors media startups. He has been columnist in DNA and also World Economic Forum chosen global shapers in the past. Rhythm is also building India's greatest Lego city and creates Lego installation and murals for global brands such as Red Bull. Very inspiring, Rhythm, to have you here on this forum. And
thank you so much.
I'll hand it over to you. So you can have the guest of the day and speaker of the day now. Yeah.
I think we should have Rhythm speak. Yes.
Yeah, Rhythm, all yours.
Okay. Aalap, first of all, thank you so much for taking out time. I think we just come back from a travel, and if I have to introduce you in the least amount of words, I was going through a list which says that amongst the top 200 most creative people in the world, you are at the 41st number, and it itself speaks so much volume about what you have been doing. So I'll just throw a couple of numbers because I'm a person of sales more. So 9 Cannes Lions, 27 Spikes, 43 Curious Wins, 29 Mirchi Cans, 58 Goa Fest. I think if you total them up, it's like more than the number of campaigns which could have been produced in India in the last 5 years. And only it's so huge number that you have got in terms of wins. So I think congratulations on that. And thank you so much for being here. Something that I want to personally ask you is about the new tattoo that you have got, the dragon tattoo, the Fukuryu. So, if you could just tell us about the entire story of Fukuryu.
So in such a wonderful way to start. Okay, so I've been a big fan of the Japanese culture and the way that Japanese people handle their art. There is a nice, so they are extremely dedicated to their art, and so I've always been a fan of, be it anime, manga. It's just a different way of looking at the world, and I feel that they have a unique way of doing it, and that's what got me interested in getting a tattoo, honestly. So the Fukuryu is a lucky dragon. So I was visiting Tokyo in I think November, and I went to a tattoo studio and got that done. Now it's so if you ever meet physically, then you will see that my coping mechanism. So in my head, the first thing that you see when you're in like a difficult place or at a good place is your hands, right? So I have a lot of shit on my hand, lot of stuff on my hand, because that's like the first thing that's visible to me, right? So there is this, just out of curiosity and to address the elephant in the room, the bracelets is one good thing that happens to me in my life. I put on one. I never take these off. There's like counting my thing. Like it's a big thing. Yeah. So like buying mom, dad a car when I was like some 21 and stuff like that. So I put on one for each. The Fukuryu is right next to it because it's a lucky dragon. So I like to rub it when I need the luck that I need sometimes. So that's why it's there. One interesting thing when I was getting the tattoo done was that so I am been dating my girlfriend for 11 years now. We are about to get married, but 11 years now. We have not married, right? Now to just to demonstrate the craft that the Japanese artisans have, right? I told my tattoo artist, Kaz, his name was Kaz. I told Kaz that, hey, I want to get my girlfriend's name tattooed in on my next to the dragon in Japanese. And he refused because they say that so they love their craft, right? And if it's a girlfriend, there might be a breakup tomorrow, and I would remove the tattoo, and that's like destroying their craft. So unless you're married or you're a blood relation, you cannot get a tattoo done by them. So that's something, yeah, beautiful. That's why I love the Japanese people. Right? They're so obsessed with perfection that it's great. And they found, and actually that's also a good point, because their obsession is inspirational to a certain extent, because if you look at the work, even in advertising and even in awards that we're going to talk about today, the craft that comes out of Japan is one of the best pieces in terms of technical abilities and the way that it's made and the amount of time that they would spend. It is extraordinary. Like I work at Dentsu, which is a Japanese network. So I'm fortunate to have access to those people who are doing this from the Japan office. Like there is Yasu-san, who is a very, very, very well-known creative in Japan. His craft is impeccable, right? And the work that he does it for years, and he will get every single stroke right, and it's beautiful.
Wow.
So Japan, so Fukuryu is all Japan. It's a lucky dragon, and just there for all the luck that I might need ever.
I think in Japan they don't fear the dragon. I think that is also a very different cultural thing compared to China.
Yeah, correct. China, it's a feared thing. Japan, it's a worship thing. Yeah,
Worship
that's
thing.
true. Yeah, Chinese dragons are supposed to be destroyers, while Japanese dragons are supposed to be holy spirits. So there is a Japanese dragon for everything. There's a luck, there is water, there's life, there's sun, there's everything. And to differentiate from a Chinese dragon, and now I'm rambling also, but a Chinese dragon will have 2 claws in their hands, and the Japanese dragon will have 3. So that's a difference between a Chinese and a Japanese dragon also. Yeah.
Wow. And I think from Japan, something about your love for Disneyland, when you got to
Oh,
attend a very Merry Christmas parade. I think,
yeah,
does that come from your childlike curiosity
yeah.
that you've had?
Yeah. So every country. So I want to visit all the Universal Studios. I want to
Right.
visit all the Disneylands in the world. That's like my life mantra. I love to travel, and I go to all the Disneylands and all the. So if you look around the room, also it's full of stuff that I've picked up. Disneyland is a wonderful place. I feel that my entire creative compass that I have in me is because of one, Disney and Marvel, both put together, not DC, primarily Disney and Marvel. And f- I don't know if any of you guys would have read it, but Raj Comics, there used to be Raj Comics. And
Right.
I've grown up in Kanpur, where Raj Comics were a big thing, like the Super Commander Group, and they're all rip-offs of DC and Marvel characters, but they were beautiful, beautiful inspirations, right? So hence I go to all these places. I love Disneyland. I love Mickey Mouse. I love Goofy. So just go there, enjoy the places. And the amount of, so there is a way that people behave in amusement parks. Okay.
Right.
Amusement parks is like a beautiful part of just everyone being a
Very,
child.
very
Yeah,
utopian.
very utopian. It's a 90-year-old woman behaves like a 10-year-old at Disneyland. Okay.
Right.
It is wonderful to watch. There are kids, there are adults, there are elderly. Everyone behaves like a child. It's like
Right.
you cross the gates of a Disneyland, and the second you do that, you're just amused by all the rides and you're running around. Old folks are running around to get into this ride, get into that ride. It's beautiful to watch. I think I go for
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Wow. So very similarly, I am a Lego enthusiast. So you put
Yeah.
me into a Lego land, and that's my wish. By in next 3-4 years, I want to travel every possible Lego land. And you put me inside a Lego land. I don't want to go with other people because they judge me the moment I become a kid. I sit in every possible ride where I can't fit. They'll be
Yeah.
like, I'll have to hold things very tightly, but I just do that because of fun of that. So I get where you're coming from. Alap, if you could also take us through your journey for the sake of audiences, right?
Yeah.
From your and I also believe that you are still living some part of your childhood somewhere, and that's a great thing. I love when someone tells me that typically Lego is something people associate the way people associate Disney with kids.
Yeah.
And I tell people the same thing. I said that is one part of me which keeps me sane, and that's one part which is like responsible for everything that I have been in my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So uh, I know that Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy is one of your shaping things, but if you could take us through your journey from Kanpur to being the CCO at Dentsu.
So I grew up in Kanpur. So the thing about that's a long answer. Okay, so I grew up in Kanpur. Kanpur was, I think, one of the most wonderful places for kids to grow because it's a small town, and as compared to Bombay, you have school till the 12th. We don't go into junior college and stuff like that. We so the memories that I've had and the friendships that I've created in Kanpur are the most wonderful ones. Like I'm friends with people for 30 years now. Right. I met
Right.
them when I was like 7, 8, and I met them. And I'm still friends with them. And they're wonderful people. That's my coping system. That's my support system. They are that, right? Um, from Kanpur, the natural transition was always to move to Delhi because you're in the north and you can just move to Delhi and just have fun there. But my family is originally from Bombay, so I used to keep visiting Bombay. And so after college, I came to Bombay after 12th. So I am a science student. I was about to get into an engineering course. I'd gotten through some 2, 3 colleges, but then I wanted to if I used to like doing a lot of event management, and there were courses in Bombay for event management. And but when I reached Bombay, I realized that there is bachelor's of mass media, which can give you access to everything. So I took there is a college in Bombay called Usha Praveen Gandhi College. So I was like
Right.
the second batch. It's in the NM management, and I'm talking like some 17, 18 years back, 20 years back. Oh God, yeah. So I was the second batch. We had a lot of fun. Now there is this thing from the north. Even if you've been in an English medium school, like I was in the best school in Kanpur, right, and English medium and stuff like that, the habit to talk in English is very difficult. We talk in Hindi
Right.
in the north. So when I was finishing my BMM, I used to, in the breaks that we had for the couple of months, I used to go to call centers. I used to take calls because there you get trained to talk in English and it becomes natural to you. So
Right.
I used to work for a Citibank call center in the night for 3 months. I worked for a Vodafone call center. And I used to take up Australian processes, UK clients, Australian clients, so that you get in a habit. So in like 6 months, I was speaking in English and it was all great. And once you're into it, then it's a very easy thing to do. And I feel that that happens with most people when we move from, if you've grown up in a city like Mumbai, Delhi, you kind of used to talking in English because everyone around
Right.
you talks in English. When you
Right.
move from smaller cities, you are used to talking in Hindi, Gujarati, or
Correct.
Marathi, and the second you move to a big city, there is an insecurity that kind of creeps in because
Right.
everyone else is cool with English. You're still figuring way out, right? So to force it into me, I had to go to a call center. After Usha Praveen Gandhi finishing my BMM in the last year, I realized that I don't want to do events. I want to do copywriting. It was either copywriting or direction. And then I chose copywriting. I went to Xavier's XIC for a course. Um, Xavier's also some 18 years back, there was a recession that was about to hit, and I'm talking about 2006, 2007. So the jobs were becoming very difficult. This is the first time the recession hit. So what I used to do is that I used to, so they were not placed, there were placements from Xavier's. Now they have brilliant placements, but
Right.
then they did not have that placement in that year because of the recession. So I used to call up the desk of agencies, and I used to just ask for whichever heads, like for example, Bobby Pawar was at Mudra at that
Right.
time, right? And Bobby's been a mentor to me since. I used to call up the desk and tell them that, hey, I want to meet Bobby. And they would say that, okay, why do you want to meet him? Then I would say, "Arey, I need to show my portfolio for a job." And they will direct me not to Bobby, obviously, but to someone in the CD system or something. So through that, I found my first job at Ambience. I was at Ambience for a few years. Ambience was Publicis, is now Publicis, used to be Ambience. Ambience, I was there. Then I moved to Ogilvy, Bombay, always been Bombay. Ogilvy. After that, I moved to Mudra, then JWT, then Leo Burnett. Then for a bit, I was in the internal comms team on the client side at Hotstar. Then I came to Chutney Bombay. I was heading Chutney Bombay for a really long time, where Uri, 8-bit, Thappad have happened. Then I've been with Dentsu for the past 5 years. From Mumbai, Web Chutney became Happy Megari Bhavan, became Isubar, became What Consult, became Taproot. So yeah, now there are 4 zones
Wow.
in Dentsu, and I am CCO of 2 zones, which is Digital and West. Ex-digital
Wow.
experience in West, yeah. So it's been a
What a journey from Kanpur
Kanpur, yeah.
to 9 Kans, which is like Kanpur and Kans, which is great. So, while I was, when the Uri thing happened, the entire thing, it was, I think, one of the best ways that you could have used earned equity and got into people. I don't think so. That would have been a campaign which would have come with a budget, because you like really out there. If you could take us everyone through the entire Uri thing,
Yeah.
what I can probably see it in is that, and what I remember is, because my office mein all these young kids, they really got crazy. They were like, Vicky Kaushal ka film aa raha hai. Everyone downloaded the film and then realized the moment you play the film, there's suddenly Vicky Kaushal telling you go to theater and watch a film. And I think brilliant most use of how torrent culture in India could be hacked. So you could just tell me, how did that happen? Because I am sure as a part of your student life, you would have been on the other side of someone who's
Yes.
downloading it. So you would also understand who the audience is going to be.
That's why I understand, because I used to torrent a lot. So Uri was sort of to start this conversation. So there are 2 kinds of uh, thoughts, that school of thoughts by which creative leads operate with, right? There is one school of thought where through different projects and different experiences with your team, you kind of realize that, hey, there is a good bunch of people who are very enthusiastic and they will work. Then those people are concentrated on, it's not a sense of favorism. Everyone gets the right opportunities, but there are some people who will always be more enthusiastic, right? So you concentrate on that. Um, that is one way of leading a team. What I do honestly is I get the entire unit to think like it is equal. It is not that a certain amount of people would are doing good, so you keep concentrating on them. Like I would want everyone to do it. So it comes with its own cost. You have to do a lot of workshops and you have to do a lot of stuff.
Right.
Why I'm saying this is that I had joined, I was co-heading it with Praveen Sutar. He was my art partner then. Um, when we joined, it was a branch that was in trouble, honestly, because the business and the leads and everything was a bit challenging. There were 17 people and there were mostly kids. Okay. We used to have this workshop all the time where we are trying to teach people, make them understand. And there's this one kid who was with me till Isobar, till last year, Sandeepan. He came up with this idea, which was कि कुछ torrent के साथ कुछ करते हैं कि ki we'll do something with Vicky Kaushal if we can get to shoot with him, right? And then the team evolved it to a point where, hey, why don't we make it look like a film? And suddenly they break out, because till the film releases, no one actually knows what is in the film anyway, right? It's just a trailer.
Right.
So let's start making it look like a film, and suddenly there's a cracker of a moment, right? Now the worst thing that can happen to you, and this has happened to me, is that there is like a, if anyone who's been on a torrent site, it says Blu-ray, for
Right.
example. Okay, you download it, it's like some 20 gigs of data that you've burned because of your Wi-Fi or something, and then it turns out to be a camera or a theater print. So you're really
Right.
let down, right? The quality is bad. You were expecting a good
Right.
quality.
Okay.
So that led to this point where you don't really know what torrent you're downloading.
Right.
Okay. And the worst experience that a torrent user can have is to download the wrong file. So let's turn this into that the file that teaches you a lesson is where it started. A torrent file that teaches you a lesson. We pitched this idea to the Trigger Happy was a promotional client, and Trigger Happy used to do that. There were some 5, 6 ideas that came out, but Uri was the biggest. When we pitched it to them, they were also very excited. The client's great. Amit is great. The cast loved it. The director loved it. But like any other film promotion, there is a big problem of dates. Vicky Kaushal, Yami Gautam ke dates nahi milte. Okay, and then suddenly we kept pursuing that for 3 months, that let's do it. Then suddenly, out of the blue, on the 22nd of December, we were told that, hey, you can shoot with them on the 25th. Now, shooting with them on the 25th is great because the idea will get out. But the problem is that 25th of December is chutti for all the production houses.
Yes.
From the 25th till the 1st, no one works.
No
It's
one
like
works.
an annual industry holiday.
Yes.
So we made some calls. So the film that you guys saw and all the Uri promotions that we saw have been directed by me. Because there was no director available, and I direct. So I directed them. I called in a favor from a friend. In 2 days, we were at the set shooting for them, and there are 4 ideas in there. And so we took a floor on Mehboob Studio and had one idea in each corner.
No.
So there is a set that's made on one side where one idea would be executed. Then there is another corner. So the actors, all they need to do is go here, give a take, give some stuff, and then move to the other, then move to the
Other.
and we got. Uri was the surgical strike on torrents was one of the biggest ones. Vicky Kaushal is amazing to work with. Not at all, no tantrums, great to work with. He was like on point. Yami Gautam on point. Beautiful actors. So we executed that in 3, 4 days. I think we got a go ahead on the 22nd, and I think we were ready with the stuff by I think 27th, 28th. Before the new year break, I wanted to send it to the client, send it to everyone so that before everyone leaves, they have that stuff. So we worked through the night. Like we have not slept. I think the team's not slept for a good 5, 7 days for Uri to come out. And
Wow.
and the money was, so when it's film promotions, it is essentially the same cast. It is essentially the same team that shoots. So there
Right.
isn't normally the control that we have on television, in TVCs and videos that we shoot. We don't have that control because it's a separate unit only, right? And you've not hired them. They're just here for promotion. So it has its own complications. It's fun. But in 5 days, getting Uri out was wonderful. It was also one of the first Web Chutney went on to winning loads and creating history, but it was the first can that Chutney had got, and the first digital agency to get a can was Uri in 2019. So wonderful.
The bronze. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And because you're talking about film, something that you did with Thappad was brilliant because in a way, Thappad as a film might not have reached so many people, like how Uri did. But the entire campaign, the way that entire video, I think, made headlines was, I think, very effective in driving curiosity about the film. And it's rarely because, film marketing used to be a very buzz thing till 2010. Everyone used to go out, fight, and do literally new things to promote the films. And suddenly, this entire downward trend where people, you just get to know about a film 3 days before the launch. People are least excited. There are no promotions, nothing. And suddenly, a clutter breaking thing like this happens. It reminds me of what Sujoy Ghosh did with Kahani a couple of years back. We put this posters across, and such a smart, brilliant way of asking wanted to Broto Bhakti. I think that's what you did with Uri, and in fact, again recreated it with Thappad. So if you could tell us about how did the world's most reported trailer even come up as a concept?
So Thappad was a last minute brief, honestly. We got like a week to present ideas, and so the premise is beautiful. I think domestic violence, and not the typical domestic violence that we see. This is more emotional and representative. There is a beautiful line in the film that says that उसने थप्पड़ ही तो मारा है. Someone says to Taapsee Pannu that उसने थप्पड़ ही तो मारा है. But the beauty of it is कि उस Taapsee Pannu replies saying that थप्पड़ मारा, उसकी हिम्मत कैसे हुई थप्पड़ मारने की. The whole act, it's not a battering domestic violence which we are used to. It's a much deeper concept, right? So again, creatives are like a bunch of kids. Like most people on this call would understand. Creatives are a bunch of kids.
I'll come back to you about, because you're calling them kids. I'll come back to you about.
It's like a bunch of children. They get excited with things. Like how old you may grow, but when you're creative, you're like a child. Like if you see something exciting, now you get very, very charged by it. So we got this crisis brief for Thappad, and honestly, when we did the piece, I wasn't sure if people would understand reporting a trailer. Right. Because things like click here to register, swipe up, we are used to, like social media has made interaction extremely simple.
Positive interaction also.
Positive or any kind of interaction. I'm saying any kind of engagement that you have on Instagram, for example, is any campaign says that comment kariye, like kariye, comment kariye, share kariye, whatever. That is how influencers talk. That is how. So the world trains your head to do simple things when some brand engages with you. Thappad, I wasn't sure because it's slightly 2 steps more than simple interaction. Okay. But we were really keen on the idea. I think it was a very interesting way of communicating a narrative even before the film comes out. Because reporting a trailer and asking people to take off what we've created ourselves was a very big conversation starter. I think that is what got them interested. And I have this hypothesis of interaction in digital media, which is basically, and that's an experience thing. And of course, I've had long debates, and people will have debates and stuff like that. There is a research, okay, which says that the least complicated interaction or engagement is the most favored, which makes complete sense, right? But there are exceptions, is what I believe. If your narrative is very intriguing and is very interesting, people will go the extra mile. Now, if you've created a complicated narrative and people are not engaging with it, it's not because it doesn't equal to, see, I told you simple interactions work. It doesn't. It means that the engaging narrative wasn't good enough. Yeah. If you do a good enough narrative, you will always end up with you can get away with a slightly complicated narrative engagement also, is what I feel, right? अगर वो नहीं हो रहा है ना, उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि next time simple करो. As a creative, what I need to understand is कि next time इसका narrative better बनाता हूँ, ताकि थोड़ा सा extra mile जाने के लिए लोग convince हो जाए. Thappad, in my opinion, was one of those, right? It had Taapsee Pannu. It had that whole breaking the fourth wall and talking to people to report your own trailer, right? It needs to start with a trailer. People reported more than I expected it to, honestly.
Right.
Like we got, I think in less than one day, there was some millions of reports. And I think we had to genuinely take it down because of that. And then it's the PR stories that created the buzz.
The buzz, yes.
So had a lot of fun. I think it was a lot of good fun because that was honestly an experiment. Till Thappad, I was also not sure because the reports keep telling you that interaction ko simple karo, and then you're going ahead and making it slightly complicated. It
Complicated.
did become the world's most reported trailer.
Wow. And it also got, it also
Yeah,
won at Cannes Silver
two can.
2021.
Yeah, two can.
To Cannes.
Yeah,
Wow. So Alap, I think I'm sure it's very difficult when you are working on. It's definitely not making you happy when you are creating a work and you are seeing it being taken down or it getting banned, kind of a thing. But what you did with 8-bit Journo was exactly opposite. There was already a ban in place, and then you created something which impacted millions of lives in Kashmir.
absolutely.
And I think it is amongst one of the best things that has happened in this space in India because, and I'll also come back to you later asking you why all of these things are somewhere very socially relevant. Because with Uri, I remember within 22 or 23 days, the entire Cinematograph Act changed. The ministry
Yeah,
intervened. I think Prime Minister came in and said that we'll now penalize piracy. With Thappad, you created something which was very much about uh, you know jeopardizing the entire social
yeah,
fabric of how domestic violence is seen. Of course, the film was going to do it, but for people who didn't even watch the film, you did it in a much simpler way. So the entire film messaging came down in less than 2 minutes through you.
yeah,
And what we did with 8-bit Journo and Vice was something which took the entire idea of using communication and advertising for in a entertaining way uh, and creating a social impact to almost another level. I remember, I think it was almost 140 days for which the Kashmir was banned for phone,
yeah.
and the moment they unbanned the SMS, there's something really great that happened.
Yeah.
If you could just take us through what, and I was speaking to one of your colleagues, Nama, about I was trying to get internal stories out of her about what happened, but I would want you to take us through this.
Yeah. So 8-bit journal was so so the good thing about working with a lot of young folks in my team is that like I've become too much of a New York Times reader, honestly, or a manager to
Right.
read and understand every single thing that happens. Honestly, I've become that. But the good thing about working with young folks is that they are extremely sensitive to the 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 complications that the world is in right now, right? So it started with one of these young planners that we had called Rohit, and it started with a planner, not with a copywriter or an art guy. It started with a planner, Rohit, and he told us that, hey, I feel that what is happening in, and it's a subjective opinion, I feel that what is happening to the youth in Kashmir is something which has cut them off from the rest of the world. Okay. um, we should do something to connect them to the world. Okay. And we also had a brief from Vice at that point where they wanted to do something which they could have a POV with the youth for. There was an existing brief, and then it wasn't with Rohit, but he separately came with this thing that, hey, this is there and let's do something about it. The good the good part about 8-bit journal is that it uses the tech of yesterday. Honestly,
Yes.
it's not कि एक नया Instagram है या कोई AI है,
Right.
chat GPT है. It's SMS. It's the most base level. We started with SMS, and then we
Right.
got to calls and stuff like that. So that is, I feel, one of the charming points of 8-bit journal. The thing about a blackout is that how it happens, a communication blackout across India or at least in the globe, works out in a way that everything stopped. Okay. But when it opens, it starts with the smallest denomination of comms, which is SMS. It starts with SMS. Then they will open up a few calls, then they will open up the network and then the internet and stuff like that. So the Kashmir blackout turned into, so the 8-bit journal is essentially a news subscription service. Okay. It's an SMS based news subscription service. We created this for the youth of Kashmir. The day the blackout opened and SMSs were started, we launched it. Now the problem is that the government doesn't tell you that aaj hum log SMS chalu kar rahe hain. So we had everything in place. We had everything sorted, the legal, everything was sorted. And then the day the SMSs opened, everyone was just looking up, Googling, kab khul raha hai, kab khul raha hai. We met people in Kashmir. We wanted to travel there for this, but then we didn't get the permission for it and stuff like that happened. जिस दिन खुला उस दिन SMS सर्विस का हम लोगों ने सब्सक्रिप्शन चालू कर दिया and then lots of Kashmiris asked for it, and then we sent out all the news articles that they had missed out in the days that the blackout was there, and turned them into SMSs for them to catch up, right? And then that continued till the telecom and the internet services came on place, like voice calls and internet came back into Kashmir. So that it was beautiful. And we've received so many compliments from people in Kashmir that they wanted this, they needed this. There's some families, there have some Kashmiris in the team. They were so happy that we are doing this and actually had an impact. But 8-bit was good fun. The team also had fun because designing the entire news article into an 8-bit SMS is something like a creative challenge that a creative enjoys.
Right.
Like कैसे बनाए, satellite कैसे बनाए, ये लोग पूरी रात बैठ के ना satellite ऐसे बनाएंगे, ring ऐसे बनाएंगे, ये सब करते रहते थे. It was very good fun. It's a great team.
I think also one of the highest winning campaign from India at Cannes.
At that point, at that year.
At that point.
Yeah.
Yes. So coming back to what I was asking, is there an underlying belief that you have that whenever you are going out with a communication, it needs to have some kind of social stigma that it's going to break, or it needs to create some kind of, or probably it needs to touch upon a social fabric at a point where it can very easily travel and probably change perceptions, change cultures? Is it something which comes to you from within, or is it something that happened with these campaigns very accidentally?
It's the latter. It happened with these campaigns. I don't approach things. It's not that I don't believe that the world needs fixing. Of course, the world needs fixing. But my North Star is not that. I'm more of an idea person. Idea अच्छा होना चाहिए. वो अच्छा idea कभी दुनिया change करता है, कभी नहीं भी करता है. It's okay. मतलब हर बार दुनिया change करना is not something that I operate from. These campaigns did, and these campaigns, and there are lots of campaigns that have done that. That's a lot of my work is like that. But I don't start with that, honestly. I start with ये brief है, अच्छा कुछ idea crack करना है, अच्छा कुछ करते हैं, and that's it. So there are campaigns like, for example, we've done something for MTV, which was bra straps. We designed bra straps, right? Everyone looks at bra straps and comments, right? Like women, of course, women wear bras, right? And of course there will be straps. So could the bra strap talk back to the men that were staring at it? So buri nazar wale tera muh kala, on the bra strap itself, right? Does that change behavior? It does to a certain extent. It has a deeper meaning, but it was more of a fun idea. Like there is another piece that we've done last year called the Cliteracy Drive. Right now, weirdly, the men in India don't know how to give the women in India an orgasm. Right. So we created coupons which told you how to stimulate the clitoris. So if the right action led to a coupon code. Now there are fun ideas also. It's just that these ideas, the one that have one big were ideas with a cause, but I don't start with that, honestly. Let me be candid about it.
So a lot of people in this field have this very simple perception. They think that if I crack a great idea, I might have a chance to win awards or win audiences. But tell me honestly, does it actually take only an idea to win, or there is much more that goes behind winning at Cannes?
See, uh, only cracking a great idea is a starting point. Like, let's look at this like a relay race. Okay. Just because you've started running the race doesn't mean that you're going to win the race. Okay. There is a lot of it that goes between the starting line and the finish line. Okay. Cracking an idea is the starting point. Getting it proved, getting it executed, getting it created as a case film, getting the right response, numbers, everything is a very tedious process. It's not easy. So a lot of the stuff that you would crack in advertising, and that's happened to a lot of us, would never even see the light of day. मैंने एक बहुत अच्छा आइडिया क्रैक करा था जो कभी हुआ ही नहीं. It's not about cracking an idea. It is the starting point. Millions of people are cracking ideas. I honestly believe that the people who get stuff done are doing more for the idea than the person who cracked the idea in itself. Idea है ना बहुत लोग crack करते हैं, but to get it takes a village to raise a child. It takes agencies to get an idea out. Like there are so many things, budget issues, interaction issues. ये गड़बड़ हो गया, वो गड़बड़ हो गया, उस दिन ये नहीं बना. The journey is so complicated that it can't be. It's an oversimplification कि मैंने एक अच्छा आइडिया क्रैक कर लिया और हो गया. उसके बाद तो दुनिया लग जाती है उसको निकालने में. So it's very difficult. Every one of these ideas has taken so many people, so many hours of hard work, over indexing on the amount of work that they have put in. Like most of these are pieces that you want to put in an extra bit to make it slightly more interesting. So many nights. Like jitne SMS the shortcut mein nikal sakte the. There was a software that they had found जिससे वो लोग in 8-bit journal they found a software जिससे ना बन जाता था, but the craft on those pieces wasn't that great. तो वो लोग उससे एक लिमिट तक बनाते थे, फिर दूसरा उसको क्राफ्ट करके अच्छे से. It takes so much more to get an idea out and win than just idea crack कर लिया मैंने. That's like the starting of it.
So what happens to those people who are right now attending who probably don't have such a big idea and an execution ecosystem? Say typically someone who's working for a smaller brand, जहाँ पे they are probably or their 3 people team is the only team which is responsible for ideation execution. Do you think is it a boon that you're working in smaller teams so that things have lesser red tapeism, so things can go out very fast, or do you think that it's actually more of a collaborative effort that leads to bigger campaigns and bigger wins for people?
The collaborative efforts is a given. I feel that no one can get anything out alone, honestly. Now, as far as the amount of layers and red taping is concerned, I feel that it does help. It does help that there are lesser people. Doesn't mean that a bigger organization is a complication. Right. I have like some 400 people reporting to me directly or indirectly, but I do sit with them. I do figure out stuff. If the system is collaborative, collaboration will happen. It doesn't need to always be a 4-people team for it to be functional and collaborative, honestly.
Right.
It's also based on the system that you are in. So I feel that a lot of our young kids, honestly, they join places that are doing good. They would join agencies that are doing very well. My only advice to people, and that is what leads to a system of collaboration and production and profitability for everyone, is You should not join a place for the place or the brand. You should, the first thing, and that's how I have done my entire career, the first thing that you should check is the people that you're working with. It's the people that will make or break the next few years that you're going to work there, or the next few months, or the next few projects. अगर लोग अच्छे हैं ना, तो साथ में काम भी करेंगे, अच्छे बुरे ब्रांड को पे अच्छा काम भी निकालेंगे, अच्छे ब्रांड पे और अच्छा काम भी निकालेंगे, कोलैबोरेशन भी करेंगे. इट्स द सिस्टम ऑनेस्टली, इट्स द पीपल, इट्स नॉट बड़ा एजेंसी छोटा एजेंसी, बड़ा टीम छोटा टीम. सो लोगों के लिए मूव होना चाहिए. दैट विल चेंज एवरीथिंग.
Very interesting. So, because again, going back to a previous question, because you're telling about an idea, when you are taking an idea to a Cairns, I'm sure it needs a very effective case study to be in place. Now, how does that happen? Like, and even for people who are not going to Cairns but are probably applying for awards in India itself, how do you think someone can make a very great case study out of it?
So the first thing to do is to watch a lot of stuff that has won. When we are creating case studies nationally, internationally, we are living with the idea for so long that it becomes, some things become obvious for us. Something become it becomes a blind spot. So the first thing that you should do is watch a lot of stuff that's won. Like go to YouTube, figure out all the Cannes winners. Try to look at pieces that are similar. Right? Then try to look at pieces that are similar so that you figure out narratives. Now, another problem that I feel that Indian case studies, so I've done a lot of judging, and the one of the problems that I feel Indian case studies have is we're trying to say everything. We shouldn't. We shouldn't overcomplicate the narrative by saying 50 things. You would have done 50 things. And that is what has got you the numbers and the interaction. That's fine. But you have to figure out how do you know when to drop an idea. I'll get to that. You should figure out ways to have a single-minded narrative, right? Like if you look at 8-Bit Journal, it is about the people of Kashmir and us getting the SMS to them. Okay, that is it. We did so many things that यहाँ पे SMS था, वहाँ पे ये करा था, ऐसे करा था, वैसे करा, बहुत चीजें करी थी हमने. Not all of it was in the case study, right? It's not that everything you do needs to be put in the case study is one very, very serious problem that Indian case studies have. So look at the work, understand the simplicity of the narrative. There's a one-line thought. Then figure out that one-line intriguing thought. And then everything that doesn't add to that one line needs to be taken out of the case study. Okay. And that's a difficult call that we need to take, because Indian case studies suffer there. Our narratives are so cluttered that eventually we end up not winning it because the jury also understand that. So when I was judging Spikes last year, I had to watch 347 case studies back to back for the first shortlist. Then it was 150 of them. That means that as a jury member, I'm watching one case study, then reading up about it, spending 15 minutes on it, then next, 357 times. Okay. Now, if my narrative in that space is extremely cluttered, me as a jury person I don't have the bandwidth or the interest to figure out what you're trying to say.
What you're trying to say, right?
Right. You have to make sure that I, as a jury member, understand what you're trying to say. Right. It's not, I am not going to spend time. I will go on to the next one, and you've just lost a medal. You've just lost the shortlist. You've just lost everything. So the simpler narrative is what is needed. I think if we are sending it to in national awards, our case studies can still function with a bit of understanding that people know. Okay, they say for example, Uri nahi, Thappad is also domestic violence. There are pieces that I've done which are so Indian that you don't need to explain to an Indian jury what it means. Okay. But the second these go to an international jury, they have zero context.
Context, right.
Right. So you have to figure out how they understand in a few sentences in the 2-minute narrative what your cultural context is also there. I've seen so many international case studies, India case studies that go to international juries where, and it might seem weird right now, and you might say that, hey, isn't that obvious? But it does happen, where international juries are expected to have the same understanding that an Indian jury will have for a cultural context.
Right.
कि for example, whatever, हम लोग मेहंदी लगाते हैं. मैं जैसे ही नेशनल जूरी को बोलता हूँ कि हम लोग मेहंदी लगाते हैं, एवरीवन अंडरस्टैंड, हाँ मेहंदी लगाते हैं, हाथ में शादी में मेहंदी लगती है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल. अब मेहंदी ही नहीं पता है इंटरनेशनल जूरी को, राइट? उसको समझाना पड़ेगा मेहंदी लगती है, मेहंदी क्यों लगती है. A lot of the cases that I see from India assume that international jury को पता है मेहंदी लगती है.
Right.
हाँ, that is not how it works. I think that is one thing that we really should work on. One line narrative, making things simple. Not everything that you do needs to be in the case study. Just the main things and context.
Absolutely. And yeah. I think very well put. But do you think it also happens because we are a much more layered culture compared to, say, a jury sitting in Europe who have got a much more simpler understanding of how their society works?
Yeah, they have their own layers. Their layers are different. Everyone is layered. Like it's years and years. No, everyone is slightly layered. Ours are just new for the world. Let me put it like that. They are just new for the world. Like it would be the first time that a jury member would see कि शादी में मेहंदी लगती है. Honestly.
Right.
While हम लोग films में देख के समझ गए हैं that the father of the bride walks her down the aisle.
Right.
हमारी ट्रेनिंग हाँ वो वर्ल्ड सिनेमा वर्ल्ड एक्सपोजर से हो गई है. That is why we feel that they are simpler. The first time we saw the father walking his daughter down the aisle for marriage, हमारे दिमाग में भी 25 क्वेश्चन आए होंगे. I do, yeah, take her for a wife. Do you take her if someone has? ये सब चीजें ना हम लोग देख के सीख गए. The same has not happened with them. इसीलिए उनका narrative हमें simple लगता है. हमारा narrative उन्हें expose नहीं हुआ तभी उनको complicated लगता है.
Complicated लगता है. Also, something you said, Aalap, which was about, because we are into a process for a longer time, we don't see the obvious. Now, this is one challenge that every young person in a branding domain faces. Is because they're working on a brand continuously for such a long time. They just get saturated about how they could have newly done something. How would you personally come out of a problem like that?
See, brand fatigue happens. And I think you mentioned it briefly. कि Lego land में जाता हूँ तो I turn into a child. Okay. So I have my quirks. I'll go watch the movie or I'll write something or stuff like that. Everyone has a coping mechanism. Okay. That will turn the part of your brand fatigue happening. Like my earnest request to all the kids is that they should have any advertising junior or any advertising folk for that matter should have a hobby. सबसे पहली चीज तो कुछ तो एक हॉबी होनी चाहिए. 10 घंटे हम लोग 9 घंटे 10 घंटे हम लोग जो एक ब्रांड पे काम करके सैचुरेट हो जाते हैं. द हॉबी जस्ट अंडूज एवरीथिंग. रात को कुछ देखो या कुछ वीकेंड पे लिखो, अपने आप थोड़ा चेंज होता रहता है. नाउ दैट इज ऑन अ लॉन्ग टर्म बेसिस. ऑन अ शॉर्ट टर्म बेसिस आई जेन्युइनली फील दैट दे शुड रिक्वेस्ट द मैनेजर्स टू वर्क ऑन अ डिफरेंट ब्रीफ. ओके, I'm not saying leave the brand that you're working on. Work on a different brief. कोई और टीम कर रही होगी उसको proactively मदद कर दो. Okay. The second you do that and your mind shifts out of the space that you're living for 24 hours or 24/7 excuse me, when you come back, you will do better at the same brand. मैं तो जूनियर डेज में मैंने इतने सारे रैंडम ब्रीफ्स में काम करा है ना कि आपको इन लोगों को जरूरत भी नहीं होती थी, मेरे आसपास बैठे वाले लोगों को ना जरूरत भी नहीं होती थी, मैं जबरदस्ती जाके करता था, बिकॉज एक ही ब्रांड में काम कर करके ना एक फटीग आ जाता है, दैट इज ट्रू, इट्स क्रिएटिव फटीग, बट यू गो टू अनदर ग्रुप, गो टू अनदर सीडी, गो टू अनदर लीड, टेल देम दैट तू क्या सोच रहा है, चल 2 मिनट ब्रेनस्टॉर्म करते हैं, सिगरेट पीते पीते ब्रेनस्टॉर्म, चाय पीते पीते ब्रेनस्टॉर्म करते हैं, वो जो एक छोटा सा ब्रेकअवे होगा ना, उसके लिए when you come back to your brand, no, you will feel less fatigued.
Less fatigued, right?
So that's how at least I worked it out.
Okay. Before we just open this session for others to ask the question, just two quick questions I have. One, what is your hobby that keeps you out? And second, why do you call everyone kids in your team?
I call kids because it's a one kids. It's just a. Why do I call kids? Honestly, I've never thought about it. They're young, Ray. I work with a lot of younglings. I think the average age in my team would be around 25, 23, 25 years. I am 37. So मेरे सामने 10-12 साल में तो बच्चे ही रहते हैं. Also, I think it's a thing. It's just a quirk I have. I've never really thought about this. And now that you're making me think about it. But yeah. And the first part was that what are my hobbies? So I write. I take a lot of trips. I click pictures. I love photography. I do street photography a lot. I write shows. I write films. I direct. So those are my hobbies, honestly. बस उतने में ही हो जाता है मेरा तो. एक शो लिखने में महीना, 1.5 महीना, 2 महीना लग जाता है मेरे को. वो एक लिखने में ही सब हो जाता है मेरा. Every Sunday I write. Every Sunday I write for a good 6 hours, 7 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah. तो उतने में रीसेट हो जाता है. उतने में ही हो जाता हूँ मैं रीसेट.
Ritam, 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yes. Just take.
आलाप, मैं तो एक्चुअली क्या है, पूरा कहते हैं ना, बह गया आपकी जो बातें सुन के. I got related to everything which you were saying. And on the lighter side, मैं 2-3 चीजें बता रहा था. You know, ये जो आपने बोला ना, work fatigue and brand fatigue होता है. I have always observed in the agencies कि if you give a client servicing guy a creative job, he'll do a better job than creative guys doing a client servicing job.
I totally agree.
होता है ना क्या? So they will try to do a client servicing job and agency client servicing वाले करेंगे creative का काम, कि हमका ये आइडिया तो हम भी ले आते हैं, right? So that was the latter side. So that was, you know, getting away from the fatigue. That was the
absolutely.
Second thing, as you rightly said, you know, कई बार ऐसा होता था. काफी साल एजेंसी में काम करने के बाद, I see that many years back we proposed certain ideas to the client and clients rejected it. So what I used to do it, I used to write it on a notebook and I named it as the ideas that died. Okay. Yeah. But when you see it after 15 years, you see that those ideas were better than what they actually executed, right? So this happens in the industry always. Absolutely. Right?
There is a, if you truly love an idea, and I am a very, very firm believer of this, if you truly love an idea, you should never let it go. Like उसको, it will never die. In my head, no, it will never die. कोई और brief आ जाएगी, कोई और opportunity आ जाएगी, या तो किसी और को pitch कर देते हैं,
तब वो काम आ जाती है.
करना ही चाहिए. अगर honestly believe करते हो as a creative, see, to create magic out of a blank sheet of paper is not easy. और अगर कुछ ऐसा मिल गया है जो शानदार है and you're so happy and convinced with it, उसको इतनी आसानी से जाने नहीं देते. Just because it comes easily to you as a creative doesn't mean you let it go easily also. लड़ो, जितना लड़ना है आइडियाज के लिए लड़ो, निकालो, नहीं तो कुछ नहीं निकलेगा.
So well said. Okay, Prince is asking a question. He's saying we got to work on an advertisement as our academic project. Making the ad within the maximum 30 seconds time frame was the biggest hurdle. Just wanted to know, is there any way to preserve the meaning of the ad, like few steps you can suggest?
So for so a 30 seconder is tricky. आज के दिन में 30 seconder is tricky. So let me start with one of the most base points. Not everything that you need to say needs to be said. Okay. Everything can't and shouldn't be dialogue. You should. So when you write it in dialogue, you want to say everything in a dialogue, it will become too much for a 30 seconder. थोड़ी चीजें audience को पता है, थोड़ी चीजें expressions में निकल जाएंगी. Expressions will always be shorter than dialogues. Okay. And एंड पापा ने बोला क्या, ओके, वो चीज को रिप्लेस करके तुम सिर्फ एक एक्सप्रेशन भी दे सकते हो जिसमें पापा इज जस्ट रेजिंग हिज आईब्रोज. इट इज शॉर्टर देन क्या एंड स्टे ऑन इट. सबसे पहली चीज 30 सेकेंड है. What I was saying for case studies, don't try to say everything in those 30 seconds. नहीं बोल सकते हो, नहीं बोल पाओगे, बोलने की कोशिश करोगे, you will complicate it. It will be a very complicated thing to say. एक चीज फिगर आउट करो, एक इमोशन क्या है, आपका नॉर्थ स्टार क्या है. मेरे को ये फील कराना है लोगों को कि मॉम्स ने, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल कैडबरी, मॉम ने पहली बार जीन्स पहनी, and that is the moment we celebrate with a Cadbury's Dairy Milk. Everything that doesn't support this goes out. बस एक लाइन में फिगर आउट करो, and everything is either with it or against it. If it's against it, it can't be there. अपने आप 30 सेकंड में धीरे 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 छोटा होता चला जाएगा. That's a very complicated thing. I am also oversimplifying it, but this question has a very, very, very long answer to it.
I get it. Manisha is asking how to know when to drop an idea.
If it doesn't create an emotion in you, drop it. If you don't feel joy, sadness, if it doesn't make you feel anything, drop it. Interest आ रहा है, बस इतना ही है मेरा फंडा की कुछ तो ट्रिगर होना चाहिए. Disgust, sometimes disgust is also, it's an emotion, negative, positive, it has to create an emotion in you. If it doesn't, drop it. आगे बढ़ो. And learn to drop ideas. And anyone who's wanting to join advertising, please learn to kill your own babies. It is very difficult. It is very easy to fall in love with what you do and get possessed by it. And then, yahi acha hai. It's not the first idea that you've had. It's not the last idea that you have. Maro, aage badho. Agar kuch feel nahi ho raha hai, be honest about it. The only person who knows that it's good or bad is someone, and it would sound a little patronizing, but someone from experience can today tell you if this idea is good or not, and trust them on it. Don't get offended by it. A lot of juniors today fall in love with their ideas so much that agar koi senior bolta hai ki nahi acha nahi hai, are the seniors right all the time? No. But do they have more experience? Yes, they do. So unless they can give you an explanation on why it doesn't work, don't take that. Don't take their feedback. But if they're giving you an explanation, then be open to it and learn to kill your ideas. मैंने तो इतने idea मारे हैं ना मेरी जिंदगी में. आगे बढ़ो. If it doesn't make you feel something, आगे बढ़ो. निकलो.
Wow. Super. Just a last question from my side that I wanted to, because you have been on jury for so many festivals and awards. Any 2 or 3 observations that come at the top of your mind saying that these are 3 things I would want to tell out everyone who's applying or creating a campaign or is applying for an award? If you just had 2 or 3 such things to share.
So the first thing is that so we end up wasting a lot of money in sending entries that would probably never win. Okay. And I have tried to backtrack it to a point where ये होता क्यों है, right? The environment के अंदर आपकी एजेंसी या आपकी टीम के अंदर या उस यूनिट में उस साल वो सबसे बड़ा होगा. It would be one of the most celebrated ideas in your team that year. Doesn't mean that it would be one of the most celebrated ideas at awards.
Okay.
It's competing against everyone in the world. Your team, your agency is a small part of that universe. The one thing that I would strongly suggest is don't evaluate it with your surroundings, evaluate it with the world in perspective. कि ये दुनिया में अच्छा होगा जहां पे सारी एजेंसीज का काम आ रहा होगा. Will this be mediocre or not? Because we end up sending so much mediocre stuff because we believe in it with respect to our environment, not with respect to the industry, right? And the rest of it is the case study stuff. I think case studies from India need to be so much more better. I think we have so many rich stories and so much great work that we really need to package it better. I think packaging is where we suck at, honestly. So yeah, more or less, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aalap, for your time today. For people who were curious about what we are talking about with Uri, with Thappad and 8-bit Janma, I'm just dropping the link to the case studies. Do watch them. Some of, I think, very nicely done case studies which have been hosted. And Aalap, I think you made Saturday evening very thought-provoking, in a way also enchanting, and in a way, I think somewhere also eye-opening for a lot of us. So I think that is exactly what was needed from this session. So thank you so much for opening your heart out to us, and I hope you keep winning. And with your Ken's Telly, I hope you have 100 medals, which are like next time on your background, you have a small wall. You say, okay, with all the kadas that I have, I'll also have medals lying behind. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Aalap, for accepting our invitation. And you made this entire breakfast more special by you being there. And it was much needed session which we wanted to have always. And we will only leave you with a promise that you will come back for our sessions.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
interacting with us for the benefit of the fraternity, right? And Ritam, thank you very much for hosting it properly, and and taking out my responsibility and sharing my responsibility with everyone. Okay, na? And for the audience, we would like and we would request you to put your feedback on the Insta and FB for the session which you like very much, or whatever you want to know, or you want to ask some question. You can write it on the pages of Brand Club Gujarat. And before we wrap up, a group photo, at least a virtual one, I would request everyone to put on your videos, and we have a photograph with Aalap and Ritam. Yeah, please.
Okay. Also for people, I'm just putting the link to Aalap's Instagram, so you can go and check out his travel photographs, some really nice ones from so many countries. You might feel really bad that you couldn't get visas to half of them, but Aalap has been there, so you can just watch the photos.
Wow. Though there are some entire agencies sitting and observing and learning from you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, guys, and this was wonderful. I'm sorry I couldn't be too conversational, but I was traveling through some very complicated stuff.
Yeah. Nimesh, take a click. Before we wrap up, मैं रोक नहीं पा रहा हूँ. Aalap, I wanted to take your phone from Love. You know Love Kalla very well, right?
Yeah.
So Love was my copywriter many years back when he was just
told me.
He just started his career. And very interesting incident, Ritam. So he used to come with ideas, and whenever he used to tell and stick to the brief, वो बड़ी बड़ी बातें करता था कि सर ऐसा करेंगे, वो करेंगे, ये करेंगे. तो I used to tell him that पहले कांस जीत के बताओ, उसके बाद बात करेंगे अपन. ठीक है. And then he went off, and he got a Cannes award done. And the day he got it, he called me up. Ki, Dada, I got the award. Huh? Now I can talk to you. I said, yeah. Always, I'm very proud of you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Aalap. Thank you.